Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Miserable day in Washington. It's going to be a miserable day for a lot of people on the right when the Electoral College meets in 50 states in the District of Columbia around the country today. That is when Joe Biden will be chosen by the electors as the 46th president of the United States. I'm guessing the debate will go on, but the Electoral College does in fact meet today. Jim, I don't know if there are caps and gowns involved with all this, but 51 different votes taking place today, and we know how it's going to turn out. In fact, the numbers are going to be almost exactly as they were 4 years ago, just in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent there's any drama today, and there's not much, one question is whether there will be any rogue electors. Who are these people who decide, well, I swore an oath to vote for the person, and I've, in fact, may have said so in writing that I would vote for the person, but I'm a giant narcissist, and I'd like to let the whole wide world know that I believe that we should vote for somebody else. And, last year, I think it was, Colin Powell got a couple of votes. 2 Trump electors, one voted for, I think it was John Kasich, and I think the other was Ron Paul.
I believe that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so the bottom line, we may get a few strays here and there. The Supreme Court upheld that states can punish electors when they go rogue. And I don't know about you, Greg, I'm fully supportive of the rack as punishment for those who go rogue. I think this is nonsense. You swear that you're going to support somebody in the electoral. Like some year we could have another Bush versus Gore where it comes down to just a handful. And you get 3 or 4 rogues, and all of a sudden we have a serious constitutional crisis because somebody who won 270 electoral votes on Election Day doesn't get 270 electoral votes from the Electoral College. Thankfully, Biden's at 306. It's very unlikely that 36 will all go rogue. And, that we'll avoid that drama this cycle, but we'll see how things shake out.
No, there's been plenty of drama leading up to this, but I haven't seen any celebrity tape like 4 years ago with Martin Sheen and everybody begging Republican electors or states won by Trump, those electors to vote for Hillary or for somebody else. And so that was fun. And back in 2000, everybody was begging Bush electors to not vote for Bush. And the only faithless elector was actually from D.C. because it's still not a state. So good times, everybody. Hey, that's not actually our martinis, though. We are brought to you today by Gabby. Our good martini today is the fact that the vaccine is on its way. It's going to take a while, obviously, to get to everyone and in all the different parts around the world. But you probably saw footage yesterday of the semis leaving the Pfizer plant in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Shout out for the home state, shipping it off to, obviously, first responders. I think the first vaccines have already been administered. I think I heard that Governor Cuomo was on a conference call and was asking people how it felt to have the shot given and asking the nurse how it felt to give the shot. Real hard-hitting stuff. But anyway, it's on the way. Frontline medical personnel.
It felt like I was getting shot.
I mean, it's not intricate surgery here. It's it's a hypodermic needle. So, Jim, but the good news is that this is actually happening. Pence and Trump took a lot of heat for saying that there was a good chance the vaccine would be ready by the end of the year. By last check, we're still in 2020. I think we'd know if we weren't, and the vaccine's on its way. Well done.
It is. And I was about to say it's a long time coming, but it really isn't that long a time coming considering the pace of most developments of vaccines. There were some people when Trump said that we could have it in a year back in the early days or early weeks and months of this pandemic. A couple people said, it would take a miracle. Well, lo and behold, you ask for a miracle, I give you America's entrepreneurial and pharmaceutical companies, and medical researchers all around the world. Kudos, guys. I was a little unnerved when I saw the video yesterday when you saw it looked like helicopter trucks or helicopters following the trucks as they went onto the highway. I don't know about you, Greg. I was just getting flashbacks to OJ. Just the idea that at some point one of the trucks would make a wrong turn and we'd have some grand drama. No, they're already getting administered. They're getting administered in New York. I believe the first person was a nurse, and good for that. I believe it was either the HHS secretary or some other official said that he was predicting that everybody in nursing homes would be done by Christmas. Wow. That'd be a really tight deadline. That's 11 days away. But let's observe. Let's say they don't make it by Christmas. Let's say they make it by New Year's, right? It's December 14th, folks. First of all, do your Christmas shopping. Do your Hanukkah shopping. You're running out of time. Hunting for horsemen. But also, if we could get everybody, in the most vulnerable populations in these nursing homes, home assisted living facilities and stuff like that, Look, if we can do it in a month, that would be a huge step in the right direction. So hopefully we're getting there. It's great to see. It's a testament to American innovation and know-how. And, we can grumble about the process of approval. But again, we didn't want anybody approving these drugs willy-nilly. We want to make sure of this. And it looks like the other vaccines are not too far behind. We could be pretty close to getting the whole world to a much safer point pretty soon. So just great to see. And, what a refreshing, maybe a good omen for what's to come in 2021.
Well, yeah, we certainly hope so. And I guess, credit all the way around. I don't know that Operation Warp Speed deserves all the credit, but there's a lot of people who don't want to give it any credit. So I think when you combine the funding from Operation Warp Speed, they seem to have a good vaccine distribution plan in place. When the announcement that Pfizer had done its clinical testing came out about a week or so after the election, you had Cuomo and a lot of other people talking about how it's just going to be a total disaster if this administration gets to decide what the distribution plan looks like. I don't hear those complaints now. I think people seem to be pretty excited about it. So, I mean, this was a good partnership here between the federal government and the various agencies and the private sector with all these different pharmaceuticals rolling up their sleeves, putting this as the only thing on the front burner and getting it done in record time.
Yeah. And at this point, listeners, if you're saying, boy, Jim and Greg, they've been kicking around Cuomo a lot lately, but that's less than I expected. So keep listening. More to come.
No, that's exactly right. All right. Well, Jim mentioned that Christmas is almost here. We got 11 days left, and that's going to cost you some money. And you're thinking, man, where am I going to save some money? I got an idea. How about on your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance? And that's where Gabby can come in. Look, you got a lot of things on your plate, work, shopping, kids, online school, all sorts of different things. The last thing you want to do is spend hours going from site to site to figure out if you can save money on your insurance. But the good news is you only have to go to one. Gabby does all the work for you in just a few minutes, and customers through Gabby save, get this, $961 per year on average.
Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance by giving you an apples-to-apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers. We're talking about companies like Progressive and Nationwide and Travelers. You just link your current insurance account, and in just minutes, you'll be able to see quotes for the exact same coverage that you currently have. Now, like Greg mentioned, Gabby customers save $961 per year on average. I bet that'd be nice to have in your pocket every year. And if they can't find you savings, they'll let you know so that you can relax knowing that you have the absolute best rate that is out there. And they will never sell you information. So you'll never have to deal with annoying spam or robocalls.
And as we've said before, the process could not be easier. There's about 10 quick prompts. You fill in information like your address, your age. Eventually, you link to your current insurance policy so they know exactly what you already have covered. Compare it to what others can offer you for the same coverage. And you look at those rates and you see how much you can save. And the good news is if you already have a good plan, you have that peace of mind as well. The bottom line, though, is you're probably overpaying on car and home insurance, especially if you've just kind of set it and forget it over time. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free to check. There's no obligation. Go to Gabby.com/martini. That's GABI.com/martini. Gabby.com/martini. And Jim, $961, that'll probably cover your Christmas gifts, unless you're one of those couples like you see on those Christmas ads where, hey, surprise, we got matching pickup trucks.
With a giant red bow. And it's not even the truck that's expensive. It's the giant red bow that really socks you.
We've seen those commercials at home. Mrs. Columbus is like, why do they even do this? Think about how mad you would be if your spouse just dropped like $40,000 without ever mentioning it to you. All right. Let's talk about our bad martini now. And Jim, let's talk about April Ryan. April Ryan is clearly a Democratic homer. She's a CNN analyst and works for American Urban Radio Networks. When there are White House briefings, you see her there, usually asking questions that are not exactly objective. But April Ryan is upset, Jim. April Ryan is very upset because somebody leaked audio of Joe Biden talking to black leaders recently. And that's where we got the story a few days back that he was furious about the defund the police slogan that was going on during the middle of his presidential campaign. And he said basically that Republicans use that slogan to, quote, beat the living hell out of us in down ballot races. And so April Ryan, not happy at all that got out. She tweeted out, I asked an incoming White House source, was the meeting contentious with civil rights leaders and Joe Biden? And the answer was no. A rights leader at the meeting says Joe Biden was passionate, Ryan tweeted. The question now is who taped this meeting and why? What's the agenda? And so lots of people are rolling their eyes on Twitter. And you actually have an emoji kind of for rolling your eyes on Twitter. One reporter over at Vice tried to troll April Ryan, and it got even funnier because April Ryan didn't realize she was being trolled. He says, yeah, it's irresponsible and sets a dangerous precedent for journalists covering the incoming administration to be able to use secretly recorded conversations in their stories. To parse out Biden's thoughts and anticipate his policy commitments, you must go through proper channels. The White House press secretary, the spokespeople for the president and vice president, senior officials, and the president's public statements are all designated and responsible sources for information about the president's thoughts and intentions. And he finishes by saying, revealing a contradiction between Biden's private thoughts and public statements is dangerous because it erodes public trust in the president, the office, and the media itself. And April Ryan doesn't get the joke and says, you hit the nail on the head. This is not good at all. She then liked all the tweets in the thread. And so, Jim, kudos also to Karen Townsend over at Hot Air, who found that April Ryan tweeted this earlier this year in August. So who's eagerly awaiting to hear those audio tapes of Melania Trump talking bad about the president, Ivanka, and the rest of his adult children? I'm ready. So, consistency, Jim. All about consistency.
Well, hold on, Greg. There's a very key difference here. And the difference is that Melania is a Republican and Joe Biden is a Democrat. So that makes the moral context of it completely different. Greg, I'm going to say that April Ryan is 100% wrong. She's not 47% wrong. For those who recall the infamous 47% statement that Romney made at a allegedly closed to the press fundraiser during the 2012 campaign. One of the lessons you should learn if you are a lawmaker, if you're in elected office, or if you're a candidate for high office, is that nothing is ever really off the record. You can argue it should be, and reporters should honor this, but you don't know anybody within earshot has not, unless you're like it's just you and one other person in a soundproof room, and nobody else is going to overhear it. You're not going to. You have no guarantee of privacy. You have no guarantee of these comments not being repeated and later reported. At least once a year, some big mucky muck gets on the Acela and gets on their phone and talks loudly, hopefully not in the quiet car. And somebody who with either a Twitter account or a press credential hears it and writes about what they can hear from one side of the conversation. And the high mucky muck is so outraged that this sort of thing happened. Look, I suppose April Ryan's philosophy is that you're not supposed to do this sort of thing. You're not supposed to get this from somebody else who's on a conference call with the president. What you're supposed to do is wait for somebody in the national security community to leak the transcript of the conversation between the president and the Russian ambassador that is kept in the official archives of the National Security Agency or White House or something like that. Has happened very early in the administration. Now, if there's I'm a reporter. I love leaks. I love information. I think the public should be well informed. The only leaks I would not lay out would be anything that would put anybody's life in danger, risk anyone's life and limb. But boy, conversation between the president and foreign officials in the Oval Office, when it's being officially recorded for our government's purposes, not for the public's purposes, that's getting into a real gray area. Because even if you hate the president, even if you can't stand the president, I think he's entitled to have conversations with foreign leaders and not have the whole wide world listening in. By the way, the whole wide world, at least the whole wide world's government and or intelligence agencies are listening in. I'm sure that the KGB or FSB or somebody else was listening in on the Russian side whenever they talk by phone. But I remember in that case, that got into a kind of a gray area because it wasn't, in the end, it was a leak of classified information. It's not that, the reporter's job can report whatever they want, but whoever was leaking that was leaking, among the crown jewels, or at a very minimum, something that shouldn't be, leaked without a really serious, compelling public interest in this. But in the case of April Ryan, what I said at the beginning of this, that this is a good, leaks of Republican stuff is good. Like in the end, like the comment of Melania where she said to her friend she was fed up with the White House Christmas decorations or something like that. I'm like, I just don't care that much. If you're the kind of person who is a Melania obsessive and needs to know her thoughts and everything, fine, you can go ahead. But in the end, I think we could agree this isn't a huge deal. Whereas, Joe Biden having a fight with some of his supporters and emphasizing that defund the police was a huge factor in the races they didn't win, and look, that is news. That is significant. I don't think anybody on that list on that conference call, it's between them and their conscience about whether they want to leak it. Now, if the Biden administration figures out who it is, you can bet they're probably not going to be invited to any more conference calls, and they may find themselves frozen out. And that's the way Washington works. But April Ryan really seems to think the job of the media is to not make Joe Biden look bad. And I think, that's anti-journalism. That is anti-informing the public. At that point, hang it up and go work at the DNC, which I strongly suspect, Greg, she'd be much happier there.
I think she might be. But I don't think she's alone for the next 4 years. Do you?
No. The thing is not that she says this way. The shocking revelation is that she said it out loud.
And can't figure out the joke. That's always fun, too.
We are living in difficult times where people fear having thought-provoking conversations about pressing issues. And although we're in the midst of an information explosion, there are a lot of forces aiming to distort what's true. I created The Bill Walton Show to provide a forum for in-depth, thought-provoking conversations with leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and thinkers. Please join me at thebillwaltonshow.com to explore what's true, what's right, and what's next.
All right, let's move on to our crazy martini now, Jim. And Andrew Cuomo has spent some time here. He spent a lot of time in the bad martini. Just last week, we talked about a woman named Lindsey Boylan, who used to work for Governor Cuomo, and she said it's the most toxic work environment she's ever been in. It was far more demeaning than even when she was a waitress as a teenager. So that's not good. Now she is out with even more tweets criticizing Cuomo. She started off with this long discussion of workplace sexual harassment that her mother went through and then that she went through. And it wasn't until the fourth tweet that she says, yes, Governor Cuomo sexually harassed me for years. Many saw it and watched. I could never anticipate what to expect. Would I be grilled on my work, which was very good, or harassed about my looks? Or would it be both in the same conversation? This was the way for years. Not knowing what to expect was the most upsetting part, aside from knowing that no one would do a damn thing even when they saw it. No one. And I know I'm not the only woman. She says, I'm angry to be put in this situation at all, that because I'm a woman, I can work hard my whole life to better myself and help others and yet still fall victim as countless women over generations have, mostly silently. I hate that some men like Governor Cuomo abuse their power. So, Jim, she says she's not doing further media interviews. She doesn't want to talk to journalists. She wants to, quote, validate the experience of countless women and make sure that abuse stops. It's clear from Lindsey Boylan that she is not a righty. She is not doing this because she's trying to hurt Democrats in any way. She is a flat-out lib, and she hates Governor Cuomo. And so the pushback is now coming on very strong. The press secretary for Governor Cuomo says there is simply no truth to the claims. USA Today is quick to point out that Boylan has not provided any corroborating information or detailed allegations against the governor, because apparently that is required for allegations against Democrats, Jim, maybe not so much for Republicans. And then USA Today did also find other people to complain about Boylan. It says several women complained to the Empire State Development's Human Resources Department that, quote, Ms. Boylan had behaved in a way towards them that was harassing, belittling, and had yelled and been generally unprofessional, wrote the administration's ethics officer, Julia Pinover-Kupek, in one memo. So, Jim, given Governor Cuomo's reaction to the reporter who asked if school was going to be open the next day, I don't have a problem imagining him yelling at people and belittling them. This is also a governor who has openly talked in public about his nipple rings and gotten in on the York Gov joke. So none of this would shock me. You do need corroboration for this, preferably, but a consistent standard would also be good here. For me, the most important aspect is the timing of this, because Cuomo is allegedly up under consideration to be Attorney General, which would be a horrific decision by Joe Biden. And regardless of what ends up happening with this story, if it gives Joe Biden second, third, or fourth thoughts about picking Andrew Cuomo for such an important job, I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Greg, I don't know how you look at the performance of Andrew Cuomo over the past year and say, I want to give that guy more responsibility. I want to give that guy more power. I want to give that guy arguably if not the most important job in the entire federal government, then a really key and crux one, because the attorney general is the only person who reports to the president and who also has the authority to investigate the president. Right? You traditionally want somebody purer than driven snow in that job. It is very tough to find that in Washington. I'm not sure there are a lot of great options. There's very few people Biden's going to pick that I'm going to love. But at this point, if your name is not Andrew Cuomo, I think you're more qualified than Andrew Cuomo. And here's the thing. Look, I don't know whether this allegation against Governor Cuomo is accurate, is true or not. I don't think any of us know unless you were there and unless you saw it, or maybe you didn't see the behavior that she's describing. I will note, though, as you alluded to, Greg, watching Andrew Cuomo scream at reporters, the idea that Andrew Cuomo has less than perfect impulse control does not strike me as a extraordinarily far-fetched scenario. And we've seen this, look. Also, this is an office that once was occupied by Eliot Spitzer. They had the serious issue with the attorney general. I believe Weiner was a congressman from New York. But the idea of a powerful Democratic politician in New York State having a sense of entitlement and treating women as objects just doesn't, I'm not saying this isn't UFO landings, right? This is not a Bigfoot sighting. This is pretty darn easy to believe. Now, again, if you want evidence for this accusation, fine. And in a lot of these situations, you're going to get he said, she said, that there isn't going to be any tape recordings or video recordings or any kind of incontrovertible proof. It's going to be an accuser and the accused, and everybody else simply has to, judge it based on the accounts and draw their conclusions. It's very transparent that a lot of folks in the media treat accusations against figures that they like, i.e. Democrats like Andrew Cuomo, very differently than they treat accusations against Republicans they don't like, i.e. Brett Kavanaugh. I have, this person who worked for Cuomo for quite some time strikes me as a much more credible accuser than, say, Julie Swetnick, one of the accusers against Kavanaugh, who was making the stories of, these massive orgy rape parties in Georgetown and all that kind of crazy stuff. So, look, I would like to see this woman get treated fairly. I think it is fair to say, do you have any evidence of this? Do you have any corroborating witnesses and things like that? I think it is also safe to observe that anyone who is still currently working for Andrew Cuomo would be in an awkward spot. Did you witness your boss, do something inappropriate? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if they say yes, it's very likely there's going to be blowback at the workplace. And you're a lot of people in politics see their job as serving the master, so to speak, serving the boss, whatever he does. His interests have to come first. I have no idea whether whether these accusations are true, but I think it's very clear there was an accusation against a Republican. The headline would be so-and-so accused of sexual harassment. It would not be, without verification, former aide makes claim, blah, 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 blah. It's a very intriguing how the wording worked out on that one, Greg.
Yeah, you think in the new Biden administration, you're going to see a lot of CNN chyrons at the bottom with Biden says, without evidence, ...
Right? I mean, 90-something. Okay, I wouldn't say 90-something%. A large chunk of what politicians say every day is without evidence.
Well, that's probably right. Here's my other theory here, Jim, completely unrelated to the accusations. I think Kamala Harris is pushing for Andrew Cuomo as Attorney General. It's kind of like having Hillary as Secretary of State for Obama. Assuming Biden only goes one term, she sees herself as the ascendant one in 2024. And if everybody else is, tucked behind her in the pecking order in the administration, it makes it harder for them to try to jump out and challenge her as opposed to a sitting governor. Just a theory.
I was going to say, Greg, is that keep your enemies close or keep your friends close and your enemies closer?
Kind of. Yeah, I think so. And, after Kamala's performance on her own in the 2020 presidential race, she needs all the people kicked out of the way as many of those kicked out of the way as possible if she wants to have a decent shot at winning. So that's why I'm thinking that's her strategy. So anyway, no shortage of insanity as we start the week here, Jim. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos, Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Don't forget about Gabby, gabby.com/martini. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast. We are extremely grateful for your kind reviews and your 5-star ratings. Also, remember to get us on those home devices. Just say play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Have a fantastic day, and please join us Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.